That is younger than 6 months has not established their schedule. And so I just don't know how she's going to deal with the airplane. I don't know how she's going to deal with being away from home, being away from the schedule, or even just like the climate change. I am a little bit nervous about this whole thing. That's why I've kind of sat here and tried to decide if this is the best thing to do.
It was to be a dream, a legacy, a new beginning for the Brown family, a home they might finally own. Coyote Pass. Kody Brown's dream of being one. A big hunk of Arizona property where each wife would have her dream house, where the children might run free under the big desert sky, and where their family, broken but optimistic, might begin anew. But dreams do have a tendency to disguise their real price tag, and this one was paid in secrets. There was optimism at first. Christine wore a smile over her fatigue. Janelle remained pragmatic, cutting costs and having faith that this time around, everything would be okay. Mary restrained herself, keeping quiet, watching for caution, weary of promises that never really panned out. And Robyn, the newest of the wives, the so-called favorite, shone. Confident, calm, to the public, she was the peacekeeper. But behind closed doors, she was the strategist. The move from Las Vegas to Flagstaff had drained everyone, emotionally, financially, spiritually. But Kody, determined to make his grand vision a reality, pushed them all forward. "We'll build together," he said. "One big family compound. It'll bring us closer." Yet, as they stood on the barren land of Coyote Pass for the first time, the fractures in that dream were already open. Christine gazed at the vacant earth and breathed softly. "This doesn't feel like home." Janelle nodded but said nothing. She had already sold her Las Vegas home. Her resources went straight into this property. And Mary, she simply stood back, her arms crossed, watching Kody and Robyn huddle together off to the side. To the cameras, Kody referred to it as teamwork. But to the wives, it was fait-vu, a new scheme, another game of financial juggling. And as ever, no one quite knew who possessed what. Janelle had been promised her cut. Christine had been told her investment was secure. Mary had been left out almost entirely. And Robyn, she smiled, speaking little, giving less, as Kody boasted about her loyalty and patience. The thing about secrets is, they don't remain hidden, particularly not in the Arizona desert, because while the cameras kept rolling, and the family pretended to be happy for TLC, there were papers being signed, transfers being executed, and one silent agreement that no one, not even the other wives, was aware of. It wasn't about love anymore. It wasn't about faith. It was about control. And when the real story of Coyote Pass was revealed, it would destroy all that the Browns had constructed together. Christine put it best: when you find out that the dream was never meant for you, you stop fighting for it. But by then she knew. The papers were already signed. The land was already taken. And the betrayal. It was written in Robyn's handwriting. The initial indicators hadn't been seen in lawyers or paperwork. They'd been heard in whispers. It started with Christine, one night late, in her kitchen amidst piles of unopened mail. The room was still, too still. And as she flipped through another stack of envelopes stamped Coyote Pass property tax, her heart fell. Because for all the rhetoric about togetherness, for all the speeches Kody delivered on family investment, the bills weren't coming out even. The money trail, what little she could follow, didn't add up. Christine wasn't a prying sort. But when you've given your whole life to a family, when you've worked, sacrificed, and shared a husband with 3 other women, you begin to see when something doesn't add up. Why are the taxes coming out of one account? Whose name is on this notice? Those questions would bring her right to the center of the Coyote Pass scandal. In the meantime, Janelle was battling as well. She'd invested everything: savings, retirement, profits from Vegas homes. In that land, every penny, she thought, was an investment for her kids' future. But when she went to verify the property deeds, her name wasn't marked where she thought it would be. "It is most likely a clerical mistake," Kody said offhandedly. "You know how complicated these are." But Janelle wasn't used to Kody's words. She recognized the beat, the sound he used when he wanted to derail a discussion. And this time, she didn't let it go. After noon, Janelle called Christine. They'd always had this unspoken understanding, a sisterhood that cut deeper than Kody's religious rules. Christine, the typical peacemaker, replied with a tired exhale. "Janelle, I think something's wrong." Janelle laughed, with venom. "You think?" And that is when it started. Their unspoken coalition. Two women sharing information, two wives sharing numbers, two hearts sensing that the dream Kody sold them was falling apart. When they began asking questions, it got weirder. The land payments did not equate to the deposits Kody had discussed. The joint accounts they were assured they had didn't. And the single account that did appear to govern everything. It led back to Robyn. Initially, Christine refused to accept it. She'd stood up for Robyn for years. Spoke out when fans asked her to cease calling her the favorite, told herself that justice still reigned in their odd plural family setup. But then she saw that name, Robyn Brown, managing account holder on documents associated with the property. Her faith shattered. Christine stood up to Kody quietly at first. The cameras weren't there. There was no audience. Her, Kody, and decades of tension finally exploding. Why is Robyn's name on the account? Kody didn't reply initially. He simply rubbed his forehead, sighed, and gave the same speech he always gave when cornered. It is about unity. Robyn just has better credit. It is for everyone's good. But this time, Christine wasn't nodding along. She wasn't believing it. Because if it was in everyone's best interest, why did no one know? A week later, Janelle discovered her evidence, hidden in county documents, under a joint family LLC, where records of a property transfer tied to Coyote Pass. The beneficiary, a trust that listed Robyn's official address. The signer, Kody Brown. That was the point the story changed. From suspicion to infidelity. Janelle's jaw was set as she read the documents. So, all this time, we weren't creating a family. We were creating their empire. After that day, the sister-wives relationship started to crack irreparably. Every glance, every exchange, every gathering, it all weighed with the burden of the secret. And as Robyn smiled innocently in confessionals, purportedly hurt by the drama, Christine and Janelle knew the truth. The land was never meant to unite them. It was meant to divide them, and it worked. The deeper the cracks ran, the harder Kody tried to patch them. But not with honesty, with control. He doubled down on his authority, meetings, rules, family discussions. All orchestrated, all one-sided. Kody wasn't listening anymore. He was managing chaos, managing money, managing them. But what he didn't know was that the harder he worked at holding the family together, the more it disintegrated. At first, it seemed like leadership. He'd summon the whole group to the table, Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robyn. He'd begin with a lecture on faith, fidelity, and the sacred bond of plural marriage. But the minute Christine or Janelle spoke up to ask questions about money or ownership, his tone changed. You are not trusting me. You are breaking up the family. You are making Robyn unsafe. There it was, again, Robyn. Always Robyn. Every fight, every discussion, every disagreement always came back to her, behind the scenes. Robyn played it to perfection. Soft tone, crying eyes. The martyr of the tale. I just want everyone to get along, she'd complain. I don't know why they think I control everything. But the facts didn't deceive. The accounts Kody handled were linked to her. The paperwork ran through her address. The lone wife who enjoyed stability, financial security, and property in her name. Was Robyn. It wasn't an accident. It was planning. Christine started to pull away. You could see it on her face. The wear of a woman who had pretended for years that everything was okay. The way she'd look at Kody across the table. Not with ire, but with a sort of muted shock. You say we're a family, she once said to him. But you created a life for you and Robyn, not for us. The resulting silence was louder than any fight. While Janelle continued to push for things to be made explicit. Let's just get everything on paper, she proposed. Let's make it legal. Let's divide it fairly. But Kody resisted. He said things like, putting things on paper makes it feel like a business. We're supposed to be one family, not separate people. And yet, the irony was thick. Because it already was a business, A business where only one person, or rather, one couple was cashing in. Robyn, for her part, stayed close to Kody, closer than ever. While the other wives lived simply, scaling back, renting, or settling into RVs, Kody and Robyn resided in a $900,000 house in Flagstaff, financed in part by money that was technically owned by all. When confronted, Robyn denied any control. It was Kody's choice. I just did what he wanted. But behind every decision, there was her silent acquiescence. The yes that didn't need to be said. The nod that sealed the deal. And as tension mounted, something snapped inside Christine. She started to see what she'd been avoiding all along. The marriage wasn't loveless, it was powerless. Her loyalty was her trap. The more she watched Kody stand up for Robyn, the more she knew she wasn't part of this family anymore. Janelle noticed too, and for the first time, both women, once separated by jealousy and circumstance, found themselves joined together by betrayal. They did not devise revenge. They did not scream or hurl accusations. They just started to pull away. At gatherings with the family, they ceased bickering. They ceased trying to win. They smiled for the photos, but their eyes told all. Because they had learned at last, when a man begins guarding one wife's interests above all others, the marriage is no longer plural. It becomes political. There is always a moment, a breaking point where silence becomes strength. For Christine Brown, that moment arrived quietly. It wasn't in front of cameras. It wasn't during one of Kody's sensational family meetings. It occurred in the quiet of her own kitchen. The same kitchen where she had once fed 18 people, smiling through fatigue, attempting to keep the illusion afloat. Now, the only noise was the ticking of the clock. Christine had always been the soul of the family. The one who laughed the hardest, loved the most, and forgave the quickest. But when love becomes a chore, forgiveness becomes exhaustion. She'd been told for years to be patient, to trust Kody's vision, to have faith that everything was part of God's plan. But God's plan did not involve being disregarded. Disregarded and left alone in a marriage that no longer felt real. It started to disintegrate during one of Kody's so-called check-in talks. He sat across from Christine, hands folded, his voice calm. Too calm. "I just don't feel the same connection anymore," he said. "Maybe we've grown apart." The words hit like ice water. Because to Christine, grown apart wasn't the truth. It was a rewrite. They hadn't grown apart, he had walked away, piece by piece, day by day, until all that was left was the fake love she played for the cameras. When Christine questioned him about what he wanted, if he was willing to make it right, if he was willing to try, he didn't blink. "No," Kody replied. "I don't want an intimate relationship anymore." And that was that. No argument, no fire, only finality. Christine's tears welled up, but there was no pleading this time. No negotiating. Just honesty. Because when someone says they don't love you anymore, you have two options: stay for the narrative, or leave for your peace. Christine opted for peace. But she didn't merely walk away from a man. She walked away from a paradigm. A belief that her value rested on compliance, that her joy relied on Kody's validation, that sisterhood equaled silence. Her choice radiated throughout the entire family. Janelle, sitting on the sidelines, felt the quiver in her own heart. She wasn't ready to go yet. But she got Christine. Only another plural wife understands. Mary sat there, too. Quiet, calm, the same resignation burning in her chest. And Robyn. She cried openly, theatrically, calling it the worst day for our family. But not to Christine. It wasn't tragedy. It was freedom. She packed that night. No doors slammed, no screams. Only the rustling of boxes closed and memories left behind. Each photo she wrapped. Each memento she put in a bag. was a fragment of herself she was reclaiming, and when she finally shut the door on it all, she didn't turn back. For the first time in decades, Christine Brown was free. But Kody didn't look at it that way. He labeled it betrayal. He labeled it abandonment. He even accused Christine of breaking up the family. And Robyn, she repeated his indignation, portraying herself as victim of Christine's decision. What they failed to understand, what they still don't, is that Christine didn't break up the family. She merely decided not to continue pretending that it was intact. Her exit would become the domino that started the fall, because when Christine left, the curtain lifted. Janelle began to see the truth. Mary's silence became deafening. And Robyn's golden image started to crack. The day Christine left, something shifted forever. The Brown family didn't just lose a wife. They lost their illusion. Coyote Pass, once the symbol of their unity, now stood like a ghost of promises unkept. Dust blowing across the vacant lots, the wooden markers indicating where houses were to be erected, now lost to time. And whereas the wives mourned in their own ways, Kody mourned control. Because for the first time someone had said no. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with freedom. Weeks afterward, rumors spread, bank statements, deeds to properties, stolen documents revealing transactions that no one was supposed to know about. Christine's subtle exit had triggered something, a tide of questions that could no longer be silenced. Janelle needed answers. Mary demanded them. Even online fans began pulling documents, posing the question the family had hidden for so long. Who actually owns Coyote Pass? And then it appeared. A piece of paper plain-sighted, a partial ownership transfer signed months prior to the relocation. Whose names are on it? Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. No Janelle. No Christine. No Mary. Just them. The truth dawned like thunder. Coyote Pass was not a dream for the family. It was an investment for a pair. Behind the smiles, behind the staged family conversations, the favorite wife's story had become something much darker. A clandestine financial kingdom constructed in the name of religion. Robyn labeled it misunderstanding. Kody labeled it family strategy. But Christine and Janelle labeled it what it was: betrayal. And as the truth started to seep out, so did the stability of the family. Christine had quit. Janelle was halfway out the door. Mary was finished playing games. And Kody was out of wives to blame. The cameras picked up the tension, but even they couldn't record what came next. Because off camera the stakes were higher than anyone knew. Legal documents were being scrutinized, assets were being questioned. And one by one, the pillars of Kody's so-called empire began to fall. The world believed the show was over. But this was just the prologue. Because there is a whisper. Rumors of new filings, new accounts, and one final deal behind closed doors. Something large enough to drag the whole family back to court. Something that even Robyn may not make it through this time. As the Arizona desert sun falls over Coyote Pass, the earth lies quiet, but not silent. Each whoosh of wind bears the whispers of broken oaths and the ghosts of a dream that turned into a scandal. And somewhere, tucked behind the walls of $1 million home, Robyn Brown knows the truth is coming. And when it does, the empire that took decades to build will fall in a single headline.